this is Megan Combe from ESE's Educator Effectiveness Team. Some of the most important work in CAP actually happens before the 5-step cycle even begins. Within the first 3 weeks of the practicum, candidates, supervising practitioners, and program supervisors will conduct a series of pre-cycle activities to set the candidate up for a productive CAP experience. The goal of this pre-cycle work is to establish a baseline for the candidate. A key activity in the pre-cycle is the first announced observation. This includes a pre-conference as well as the actual observation. However, as we will discuss more in a minute, the formal post-conference for Observation 1 happens a little later in the process, during the first three-way meeting, part of Step 2. This first observation will in many ways set the tone for the rest of the CAP process. It will likely be the first time the candidate participates in a formal pre-conference in which he or she will be asked to explain instructional choices. It will also probably be the first time the program supervisor and supervising practitioner will conduct a joint observation and need to compare evidence and calibrate conclusions about the candidate's practice and the feedback the candidate will receive. The baseline ratings the assessors will establish using the CAP rubric will be informed in part based on this observation. It is important to note that this observation is meant to serve as an assessment of the candidate's performance, despite being early on in the practicum. In fact, this is in part why the post-conference takes place in Step 2 of the CAP cycle, rather than immediately after the observation. It is crucial that the self-assessment the candidate completes during Step 1 be based on his or her own assessment of practice and not influenced by feedback received during the post-conference. The self-assessment will be a useful piece of evidence when evaluating the candidate on the reflective practice element, and so should be as authentic as possible. In reality, the span of time between the pre-cycle activities and the first three-way meeting is likely to be a matter of days, not weeks. A second important pre-cycle activity is the selection of the measure of student learning that will be used to assess candidate impact. Again, in the spirit of paving the way for a smooth CAP implementation, it's important for the supervising practitioner to look ahead and think about an assessment that measures a meaningful sample of the content the candidate will be responsible for teaching, while at the same time provide meaningful feedback about student learning. A useful resource for this can be found in Appendix G. Once the assessment is identified, the supervising practitioner, with support from the program supervisor, should determine parameters for expected student performance on the assessment. In other words, determine which scores will translate to expected performance, higher than expected performance, and lower than expected performance. The assessment and parameters should be shared with the candidate as early in the practicum as possible to support backwards planning, which is why the step occurs in the pre-cycle. As you can see, the pre-cycle activities support the collection of baseline data that will benefit the candidate, program supervisor, and supervising practitioner throughout the duration of CAP.